Joining us now, she's entering, I believe, her 15th season at Kentucky. Time flies when you're successful like she is, folks. Rachel Lawson joining us here on In the Circle as Kentucky gets set to start fall ball on this weekend against Louisville. Coach, 15th season, does it seem like it's gone fast?
It has gone fast. You're dating me there saying the 15th year, but I just can't believe it. It feels like yesterday I moved to Lexington and, I can remember every player vividly. So I guess that's a good thing at my age. So yeah, feeling good about the season starting.
You're going to open up at fall against Louisville. Look, this is kind of big now because I've talked to coaches who have taken this. They're excited about fall ball. And I know it's weird. It's fall. It's early. You're just in the beginning of learning your team and finding out some things. But a lot of schools didn't have this luxury a year ago at this point. Do you feel more excited than usual for a fall because of that? I feel like players and coaches appreciate it more this year than ever before.
Oh, for sure. I think about last year, if you not having fall ball, and then we had some freshmen in some key situations. So here we come out in February, and I'm, use Aaron Koppel as an example. And I'm just being like, Aaron, you got to do this, you got to do that. And it just, she didn't even have those 8 games in the fall to kind of get her acclimated to what was going on. And so from that perspective, it's not just the freshman class you're excited about, but you're also excited for the sophomores who will have a complete full season under their belt. And it's just so exciting. It's made the first 3 weeks of school go very, very fast because we haven't had a full team practice yet. That starts on Friday. So we're basically having the full team practice Friday, scrimmaging. It'll be our first inter squad, and then we'll go play Louisville on Sunday. So really excited to see what, the kind of competition we bring to the field.
You mentioned you're going to play open with Louisville, very fitting. The rivals, your good friend, your former teammate, Holly there. What does that mean to open up with them? And what's it been like actually going against her? I know one of the when we've had you on in the past, you talked about her arriving there. You thought it would be kind of unique because you've known her for such a long time. What's it been like now coaching against her in this rivalry?
Well, she is a fierce, fierce, fierce competitor. And I learned this lesson. I mean, I've always known that. And I played with her, and obviously she was outstanding. But the thing that took me aback, it was years ago, actually, when she was at Pittsburgh. And we were playing in a fall game. And to me, yeah, we're going out to win, but I have certain objectives for each player. We go out in the fall. It's not necessarily, we're trying to win, but I might tell one kid, hey, you're only allowed to swing at X pitch and you're trying to drive it off though. Or, mixing players up to see, hey, I want to see what combos work the best. And so I'm truly using these games as, yes, they're a competitive situation for the feedback, but not necessarily putting all the pieces together. And anyway, I remember it was afterwards, and we were talking about, I was like, hey, great game. They had beaten us or whatever. She's like, yeah, now I'm 2-0 against you. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Like in my mind, the fall games don't even go on my record, but I learned very quickly. So I'm expecting, another fierce competition on Sunday. I still do things my way, but I learned I have to amp it up just a little bit when I'm going against her.
Oh, wow. So like no chit chat about, hey, Danielle Henderson's the new head coach at our alma mater. You're just going right to it.
No, there is absolutely zero chit chat. We might chit chat the next day. There's, it's like they're going to get off the bus ready to, beat us just like it's a April softball game. So there'll be no chit chat. It'll be fierce competition and just really looking forward to getting after it, really.
When you look back at last season, another great year, you get to the super regionals. What are some of the takeaways you had from last year? And maybe some of the things that you kind of will apply to this year's team. You're like, okay, we got to do this and do this to improve from last year.
Well, I'll tell you what, I thought last year's team was so special and so unique for so many reasons. We didn't have a lot of super seniors. In fact, we only had the one. And we were going against teams that were a lot. Once you got to the end, most of the teams that were at the end had a lot of maturity, a lot of super seniors. And the thing that my key takeaway was the clarity that you have when you get older, like what you're trying to do, what the games mean to you. And it was a completely different focus in college softball last year, just because there were a lot of older people that really understood what it meant to play and just the maturity and everything that they took to the game. So my key takeaway was, all right, we need to be able to bottle up this maturity, that sense of this really is my last hurrah, and how I'm going to approach it, as opposed to just a panic situation that the clock is going fast, but I'm going to slow it down. I'm going to make the most of it. I'm going to do what I need to do. And imagine if you can take that mindset and put that into your freshman and mostly your sophomore class and your junior class, and to be able to do that. So I think, going through that really helped them. I can't tell you how different our workouts have been already this fall. I looked at Coach Himes the other day. We were in team running, and it was our first team running. And usually freshmen are running around like, their heads are cut off. And I looked at her and I'm like, how do the freshmen know what they're doing right now? Like, you could tell they knew the drills. You could tell they were doing whatever. I'm like, how did they learn that? She's like, oh, they didn't. They're learning it right now. And so they just really, all the talks the older people are giving them about slow down, take your time. It's going to be okay. Just make sure you get it right. Just the communication is really helping them advance a lot faster. So I think that was our key takeaway from last year. And we've already started improving upon it this year.
The thing that impressed me is with, the tough kind of preparations you had to, with no lack of fall and certainly the lack of contact, all the protocols going on, that your young players like an Aaron Koffel just excelled at the highest level under those circumstances. Just talk about some of the young players last year who excelled and come back here for another year with now more of a normal setting.
Everybody would talk about, well, I have 20 freshmen on my team, but they would be counting the people who were actually sophomores that didn't have a full year. And there is a big difference between a first year freshman and like a second year freshman. Let's say if you have a redshirt situation, or in our case, COVID. And because incoming freshmen have no sense of urgency. They don't understand, because they haven't been through it before, the importance of the preparation, the importance of the scout, the importance of all those things. And so their head is just spinning. So here they are, they're not getting the importance. They have coaches and older people being like, let's go get it together. And I think the freshmen in that environment, that is not an easy thing to do. And the fact that our freshmen were able to excel in that environment, and even though they didn't understand why they needed a sense of urgency, they just were listening to people and just trying as hard as they could to speed up their pace of play, to speed up their their maturation, their what they need to do to win SEC games. I thought that was quite impressive, and really, had they not done that, I don't think we would have had as much success as we did at the end of the year.
Obviously, you had an incredible year offensively, 324 as a team, 78 home runs. Kayla Kowalik obviously leading the way, 495, 12 homers. You got Renee Abernathy at 357. Koffel, I mentioned. You even have some additions potentially we'll talk about. But just your offense clicked. What clicked so well last year? High expectations for this upcoming year, but it's good to have players like Kowalik coming back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kowalik's outstanding. Somehow she has mastered the fierce competitor, and when she gets there, she just is all business. She is all work. It doesn't matter what we're doing. She is very mature, like anybody would want her on her team, but somehow she's also able to relate to everybody and get people on her page and get everybody rolling. So I'd say that it all starts with Kayla, obviously, but I'll tell you, we had so many players last year step up who were juniors. And we saw that Renee Abernathy, Tatum Spangler, I'm just naming a few. We had some other people really step up. But for them to be able to do that, I thought also was key. They're all back this year. They had an incredible summer. We don't practice with them in the summer, but I got to see them when I came back, and just how strong they are, how they're swinging the bats. It's, we're doing a lot of our baseline testing, and they've been tremendous. And so they're going to obviously be the heart of what we do, but we have some outstanding sophomores and freshmen. So I think that, our offense, assuming everything goes well, I think our offense should be pretty good.
Kayla's role, though, I mean, so much of the focus, rightfully so, is on her offense, but pitching staffs, especially this year, you're going to be a little younger. She's got to be important there, too, from a leadership standpoint, right?
Oh, no question. Last year, this is the first player that I've ever, I don't like to oversell our players at the beginning of the year, because you never know what's going to happen. I'm not a big preseason team girl or anything like that. But last year, before the year, I said Kayla Kowalik really had an opportunity to be the best leadoff batter in the country. And I knew how outstanding she was as a catcher. And now, assuming she stays healthy and everything, I think she's going to be one of the best catchers in the country, not only leadoff batters. I mean, she's a great leader. She's a great receiver, has a good arm, does everything the right way, is reliable. I mean, you just keep checking off the boxes with her. I definitely think she's a player to watch this year for sure.
One of the new faces you've added is Kennedy Sullivan out of Western Kentucky, two-way dual threat player, great bat, pitching. Talk about her and how she fits into your team.
Kennedy, it's funny. I was talking about this, and she's also a great learner and a tremendous work ethic, but she's similar to the freshmen. We're so different from, her previous team, just in the way we do things. So right now, I think her head's spinning and she's trying to catch up, but I see her each week, she's starting to slow the game down more and more. And I for one, she is probably the one person I'm so excited to get out on the field against Louisville, because she has this extra switch you cannot teach when she gets into game day. She is just so impressive. So she's getting stronger. She's trying to, hone up what she's outstanding at and add a couple of skills to her game. But she's somebody that I definitely think our fans are going to want to watch.
Do you envision her as playing her both ways as an offensive player, pitcher? Are you just going to see how she handles it? Maybe give her only one role to start off? How do you kind of handle a player like her who could do a lot of things?
Oh no, she can do it all. And we're really lucky because our outfield has not only everyday outfielders, but also when you look at Tatum Spangler, she's our only left-handed pitcher who also is in the lineup and is also a outstanding outfielder. So there's a natural matchup right there as well. DH, people forget DH is actually a position. So there's other people, because so many of our pitchers hit and they're fighting for a spot in the lineup. That's always a position you can put people in as well. So we can be very creative with our substitutions, but Kennedy for sure is somebody who can do it all.
You're going to get asked a lot about your pitching staff between now and February. How do you feel about your staff going into the fall, what you're looking forward to seeing this fall about your staff?
Well, I feel great about them going into the fall because the work that our returners put in this summer, again, was outstanding. We did our first couple of workouts, we did baseline testing. Number one, they're physically game ready right now. Also, we had a bullpen workout and it was kind of a competition. They weren't competing with each other, but they were doing a competition. And we had three people side by side that went 66, 67, 66. And we've never had that at Kentucky. We've never had that kind of power before. So with pitches that break and move and change in speeds and stuff. And I can tell they've honed it down. And then obviously we have outstanding freshmen. So I feel really good about where they're at right now. But the thing that obviously is the unknown is we don't have anyone who has a lot of big time game experience. And so we don't have one player in that role. So they're going to have to figure it out. They're going to have a great mindset and really figure out their process early. So that's something I think all of us are going to have a keen eye on when we go through this fall season.
When you have a staff like this, where you mentioned you don't have that clear-cut number one, does it develop over the fall? Is it something that you kind of doesn't develop until early on in the season, where maybe you throw everybody early in the season and then it plays itself out that way? How does that process work from your standpoint? Would you like it to have it settled by the start of the season, or are you saying, you know what, we're going to just kind of go into the season and let it figure itself out? It'll play out.
I don't think that'll figure itself out until January. I mean, you would like to put who you think is going to be the star out on the mound right away and give them all the innings and stuff like that. But I just don't think that that's wise right now. I can't tell you how many times I've seen players just who are like, oh, she's all right. And then out of nowhere, just, continue to develop through the fall, have a great, go home for those few weeks in December, really hone their mental game, sharpen a couple pitches, and come back in our January scrimmages in early February and just absolutely tear it up. So I don't really like to limit people this time of year. I really like to see it play out. And then going into the February tournaments, you put out there who you think you're going to have. But I'll tell you, like Kelsey Nunley is a prime example. Her freshman year at the beginning, I think she hit, I want to say, in her first tournament, she might have hit like, I don't even know, 15 people. I mean, I don't know what the number was, but by the end of the season, she was just outstanding. So don't like to limit people early for sure.
For Kentucky fans, they always get excited about new faces. Who are some of the freshmen that Kentucky fans will be kind of keep an eye on, should keep an eye on, and remember some of the names, and some that you're looking forward to seeing how they step up on the field?
Well, we are very fortunate because we have a freshman who was in the Olympics, Alexia Lakatina. I hope I say, everybody says her last name differently, but she is awesome. Now, she is a great pitcher, spins the heck out of the ball, throws hard. She's not physically even developed yet, and she's already hitting 66 easily. She's just such a natural athlete. Her overhand throw, she has the hardest overhand throw on the team at 74. She is an outstanding defender. I won't probably put her here, but she every chance she gets, she runs out to shortstop because she wants to win the shortstop position. So I think it's probably the funniest thing that she does. And she's a great hitter. I mean, there's nothing but positives in her. And then in our physical assessments, when we do our jumps, our throws, and our runs and stuff like that, right now she is our number one on the horsepower index. So to be able to compete with Kowalik, who is a physical, just incredible, says something. So she is an outstanding freshman. We have, offensively, we really haven't gotten a lot of things to do. Sarah Stone brings a ton of power. Most of our freshmen bring a lot of speed. That was something we were going through. Almost all of them are left-handed. Taylor Ebbs is somebody who has speed and power. I think she's somebody to watch from the state of Oregon. So, I know I'm not mentioning them all right now, but those are the ones who have really done something. And then we have Margaret Tobias, who's just quick and an outstanding middle infielder. So we have a lot of depth that we didn't have last year. We have a lot of versatility, and we bring speed and power. So once we hone those kids in over the next couple of months, I think we should be pretty good.
What's that like to have a player that's in the Olympics, but it's just a freshman? She's obviously Alexia was with Team Italy. Are you holding your breath when you see her in the Olympics? Like, just stay healthy there. I mean, you got to be excited for her on the one hand, but on the other hand, you're like, okay, I'm going to get her in a couple of months. It's got to be so unique because usually when you have players in the Olympics, they're veterans or they've already moved on from college, or if they are at college, maybe they're seniors. But here you got a freshman in the biggest stage, which obviously will pay off here moving forward.
Well, yeah. Well, this is a great story. So we had Alexia, incoming freshman, so our newest recruiting class, and then Brittany Cervantes, who was my very first recruit at Kentucky. So we bookended the Olympics this year. And I was out in California recruiting, and it was 4 a.m. in the morning, and I get this text, and Brittany's texts me and says, "Hey, Alexia is going in right now," and they were playing Team USA. And the last time Alexia played Team USA, I think they scored 10 runs in like 30 seconds. So I wasn't scared for her getting hurt. I'm never scared of those things, but I was scared for her life that they were just going to just crush the ball. And here's, my freshman coming in. And I will tell you, she was outstanding. She absolutely held them, shut their offense down. It was awesome. And then a couple of days later, I get the text from Brittany, "Hey, Alexia's, starting against Japan." And I'm like, "What?" And so again, you're just like, "Oh, am I going to have to call her? Is she going to be okay?" And again, she shut them down for 4 innings. She did an awesome, awesome job. So, it was just so exciting to see somebody, because you didn't know what was going to happen, a freshman on such a big stage. And she just has this thing in her head, and she just went for it, took her opportunity and was outstanding. You want to talk about growing up. She is somebody who has matured a lot through the year, just playing with all the older, mature Italian national team players. I mean, she has such a tremendous focus about her, and she's a lot of fun. She's down to earth. She's practical, but in the same token, she knows how to compete already, which is just a godsend, really.
It's enormous, going against the best players in the world and had her success. I mean, obviously that's going to bode well for her here in the SEC. She's not going to be fazed by anything she sees in the SEC based on you just played against some of the greatest players in the world in the biggest stage representing a country. I would imagine she should be probably ahead of her age, if you will, compared when a normal freshman that maybe comes into an SEC.
I mean, I think so. I mean, she has not backed down at all this fall. And she, like I said, you can teach her something, and she's very receptive. She has great kinesthetic awareness. She learns, she's respectful. She loves coaching. She just, eats coaching for lunch, but she knows what to do with it. She just wants a tip here and there and then adds it to her game. I mean, she is definitely not your typical freshman. I expect she'll be able to walk out there and really, be formidable early.
You mentioned Brittany Cervantes, obviously in the Olympics. What did it mean to you to see her in the Olympics? You've obviously mentioned she was your first recruit. You've known her for such a long time. To see her achieve that goal and get there to that stage, what went through your mind? Had to be pretty emotional, I would imagine. I mean, you had for because you've probably known all the hard work she's done behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy for her because, she was working so hard just to get to the Olympics. So here's somebody who has had plenty of opportunities to do other type professional type things, and she just kept making decisions. She had an outstanding pro career, very, very, a ton of awards, ton of things, and this is the one thing that she wanted on her resume. So she was working hard. I mean, getting up, having her 6 a.m. workouts every morning, just like she's a college person, and then you get COVID and it shuts down. And I'm sitting here thinking, that's just, that's got to get you. That at first I was like, is she ever going to get to the Olympics? And then, she continued, which COVID on her own, she continued to do her morning workouts by herself, wherever she could figure it out, at city parks and doing whatever. And I can't tell you how many people in the community was like, hey, I was hitting with my boy at the park during COVID and I ran into Cervantes doing her stuff, and just all the discipline it took. So I was very, very, very happy for her when she got in the game. She not only, got out there and played, she actually competed and did very well. So great way to cap off her career. And now she finally gets to work full time. So now I get to pay her to do what she actually should be doing, which is, catering to me. So I'm pretty happy about all that.
You're always one of the first people I think of anytime there's a rule change in the sport, because I always really want to hear what your thoughts are, because you're one of the best at understanding the rules and thinking what's good for the game and things. But I'm curious first, as you watch the Olympics, was there anything that from the international game that you liked that you would like to see implemented in the college game?
I love the clock. I mean, no question. It gets rid of a lot of ambiguity. Umpires don't have to worry about some of the rules nonsense where they're forcing people to keep the game going and people yelling at them, wait, you let them have 10 extra seconds and not us. And so it gets rid of a lot of that nonsense. So I definitely love the clock, because I think anytime you can get rid of dead time in our sport, you keep us in the forefront of, TV ratings and everything. That 2.5 hour mark is golden. And so you never want to go past that, because softball is just so many fans now, and we want to keep that momentum going. The other stuff, they didn't have replay, and that was tough. Now that we're in a stage in the SEC where we're using replay more often, and now we're going to use it regular season, and it being in the Olympics, and I mean in the World Series, things like that. I think that replay is a big deal. I would like to see them do that on the international stage. But I love the Olympics for what it is. I think it's great. I love, the players are outstanding. I wish we could make it a game that's a little less expensive so people could play it around the world. But from a college perspective, there's nothing like college softball on TV. So to get their clock would be something. And then, to finalize our pitching rules, to hone those in, because that would be a little bit better, get rid of some of that ambiguity that we're, relying on the umpires to call. And I think after that, we're all pretty much in the same place.
I agree. Mike Candrea has been outspoken about that. He's told me about that. That's the biggest thing he likes about the international game and would like the college to implement, is to kind of clean up the whole pitching, like you just mentioned. I think that's a valid point there. You mentioned replay. Obviously, that just finally got passed, where they're going to be, now everybody can use replay. I think the coaches, they say they have 2 challenges. You all kind of are probably laughing in the SEC because you guys been already ahead of the game with the replay, with using it in the conference tournament and experimenting. But what was your reaction now that we're moving this step forward here, and really catching up with all the other college sports that have replay?
Well, your reaction's always, it's about time, but I'll tell you about the SEC. We are ahead of the curve, but the reason is there's always a conference that has to be the experimental conference. And the thing that I love about the SEC conference and the coaches in the SEC is they're willing to try crazy things to get it going. They're willing to try TV rules that now they just tighten those up, and that's going to be in our entire rule book, not just for the few schools that have TV. That we're willing to do the instant replay, anything that we can take. And more importantly, we have the universities that are willing to back softball financially to make these things happen. The SEC conference has built a control room for instant replay in our office in Birmingham. So we're not only cutting edge in sports like football, but we're also cutting edge in sports like softball. So I can't say enough about the league and just the foresight that we have and the willingness to make changes and to see things happen.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be great for the game and used for the postseason. And I would imagine, you all kind of, you're going to use it in the regular season now as well in conference games. How big of an adjustment was that for you as a coach when replay was first experimented? Is that a big adjustment? Is that not a big adjustment from a coaching standpoint?
It's not a big adjustment. I think you have to start to learn a little bit of strategy. Like, do I save them? Do I not? For the crucial situations, is this really that big of a deal in this moment? So I think there'll be a little bit of strategy adjustment, but overall, the speed of softball, you have a lot of dead time and stuff like that to think it through. And honestly, most of us have been thinking about replay for a very, very long time. So it's just nice to have it. And once people can mechanically handle it with the cameras and stuff, I think it'll be good for the umpires as well. Athletes are so big and fast and strong now at all leagues across the country. And it's hard to keep up with the speed of the game for anybody. So it'll be nice to let them have that break as well.
The other one that kind of went under the radar, a lot of the attention went towards replay, but was the out of the box rule got tweaked a little bit, where instead of now, if you're called out of the box, it's an automatic out. Now it's a strike, or the team has the option to either accept the result of the play or it's a strike, depending on there. What was your thoughts on that tweaking of that rule?
I really like that. Very similar to the pitching rule, where it's a ball if there's an illegal pitch, as opposed to. So we tweaked that rule a couple of years ago. I think it's a fair tweak because, it's pretty harsh to call somebody out of the box when they've fouled off, a pitch. Now you got to be careful on strike three, I guess. But, that was a pretty harsh rule. And because of that, I think some umpires may or may not want to call it. It's also very hard to see. I think it's a rule that needs to stay, though. I know this is controversial, but eventually we will have 4 umpires and it'll be a little bit easier to see. Right now, it's hard because we don't have that 4th umpire, but you want to keep things like that in the book because we will. But I think it was a good tweak to make the penalty less severe, so it's not as big of a game changer.
Is that next on your, like, if you say, okay, this is the next thing we need to address from a rule standpoint in the game, is that what would be the next thing you think that needs to be addressed in the game?
I think the 2 things, we started to clean up the pitching rules, which I really like. So we got to the first half of it. I'd like to see us finalize that and become more like international. Obviously, I do not like the replant. Replant is an advantage. Curl hopping isn't. So biomechanically speaking per se, but I would like to see us clean that up. I think it'll help umpires. I would like to see 4 umpires more often, but I don't know how close we are to that. It seems like a simple thing, but right now there's a real umpire shortage in all sports, not just the sport of softball, and especially quality umpires. And so I think right now that might be a little bit further than we would like it to, even though it seems like an easy solution. So I obviously those are 2 tweaks. I mean, right now I can't think of anything else except for taking what we do now and becoming great at it, and then maybe another monster one. But right now, all of us need to learn how to use instant replay. Slappers have finally gotten a little bit under control. And in pitching, there doesn't seem to be as many illegal pitches called. So let's figure out what we're doing, get everybody to, get instant replay, and then after a couple of years, see what we need to keep us in the forefront of the sporting world.
Yeah, Coach Candrea even said about the umpire, the issue is now it's just kind of developing more umpires and funding more umpires, and and then we can get to the point where you could get to the 4th umpire. I think he's more thinking about we need to just get more umpires involved right now than there is in the game.
Well, I agree with him. I mean, there's not, the only thing worse than a bad umpire is no umpire at all. And people forget that. I mean, at all levels, people are harassing the crap out of umpires in every sport. But they're not willing to pay for it, not willing to put the resources in it. And it's just a tough gig. I say this about all umpires at our level, not very different maybe in the pro sports, but at our level, they're not, as much as they're getting paid a lot for the game per se, that nobody's making money off of being an umpire. They umpire because they love the sport. They want to be in the game. So it's a tough thing physically. It's you're going against people who do it all the time. You're getting harassed all the time. Now with TV, when there's arguments and stuff go on, it's getting replayed over and over and over again that you blew the call. Like, there's a lot that's going into it. So I think we need to pay more, get more people in there. And obviously the more you get, the better the product will be, and really start treating umpires with respect, because we want to keep them in the game. I mean, it's a problem not just in softball, it's a problem in all sports.
Is it going to be strange in the game? No Mike Candrea, he's retired, and no Lou Harris Champer to compete against in the conference. How strange is that going to be this upcoming year?
Well, for me, it's strange because those are the people I grew up idolizing. And so, it's just, they're incredible. They were incredible for the sport. They helped elevate us. But the cool thing is, now there are so many people that played for both of them that are in the coaching world. So they do continue to live on, and they have their own coaching trees, and we're better off for having them. But it is going to be weird, but I'm so thankful they were in the sport. And I'm thankful that people that they coach are going to continue to be in the sport. I think that's outstanding.
If you get to the World Series, there'll be a different schedule than the last time you were there. It's going from 7 days to 9 days now at the World Series. Your thoughts on that move? Obviously, there was a lot of chatter about that during the World Series about expanding the schedule, and they've had it a couple days.
No, it's absolutely crucial. It's necessary. I mean, it ended up working out for Florida State, but there's an example of, I mean, what did they get off the field, really early in the morning and had to turn around and play, at a kind of early the next day. It's crazy. So you not only have the rain situation, you have that, but the other thing that people don't really understand that's going on is, as you advance, you have to do, so you have your photo shoot day at the beginning, and let's say the two teams that go into the finals, they're doing another ESPN photo shoot, which is awesome. It's cool. ESPN's great. But the thing is, they're doing all that, and then they would have to play at night. It's very exhausting, and you always want to put your best product out on the field. When you're in the you do all the time, but you especially do in your championship. So the extra days won't not only give us a little bit of a cushion, but it will really help those teams who continue to advance so they can continue to play at a high level.
Last question now for you. As you could begin the fall ball games, and you begin practice between now and February, and then moving forward after that, what are some of the keys that you want to see from your team and develop to be the key to accomplish all your internal goals?
Well, the one we alluded to before is we've really got to figure out who's going to win the starting roles pitching. So that's the easy surface one. I think the one that would go unnoticed to the naked eye, so we have had a lot of success. We've gone to a lot of super regionals. We've, been to the World Series, but not as frequently as I would like us to be. And here's the thing, what I believe the reason is, it's because it's Kentucky, who's getting a 14 or a 16 seed, something like that, always going against the number 1 seed. So the thing that I think that we really have to hone down is we've got to be so competitive all the time in practices, people competing for positions while also still being a good teammate, which sometimes in this generation is hard for them to manage in their mind. We have to be able to compete so heavily so that we want a top 8 national seed, so that we're hosting super regionals instead of going into the confines. So everything that we do this year has been tweaked to be incredibly competitive. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have your skill areas, but if time is a pie, we've really restructured how we do that. And we are definitely going for one of those top 8 national seeds instead of a top 16 national seed.
Well, we're going to take it step by step, and it begins with fall ball. You're going to be at home, Louisville, this upcoming weekend. Fall ball, excited to see it on the field, Coach. Congrats on that fall ball. I know you're excited about that. Thanks for joining us. I know it's a busy time. You're always the best to go to when we talk about the game and some of the things from the rule standpoint and just overall thoughts on the game. Appreciate you every time, and we'll definitely do this again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.